So we did live, sir. Right, family, a warm good evening to everybody, good afternoon, good morning, or greetings generally to all the viewers them, both now and the one that we get for watch later. I say a warm welcome to una all, as usual, me where they talk to una this moment. I'm the host and presenter of this program inside the Then and Now Media Empire, and my name is Prince Koroma. I ask una if we can help for perform the usual ritual, we now for help for share the video, because this is a national conversation, and this national conversation has already begun, and you have to be a part of it. Today is a calling program, and it's a very special program at a critical time now in history. I can always say this because the events them are all kind of interlinked or intertwined. So therefore, it's a part and parcel of a commitment on the part of all of us for partake. So let's not be selfish, be on a low shape. With me today, I get a very special gentleman. Of course, I will give him the honors for introducing himself shortly. But what I do know is that Naina, the relevant man for this particular program today, because he got a background in criminology. And so he is my guest today, and I will give him the honors for introducing himself. Mr. Lansana, you want to tell Fambul a little bit about yourself?
Yes, first and foremost, thank you for allowing me to be guest host with you. Then to all our listeners, viewers, wherever on a day, morning, evening, I say hello to now all. So, me, Dr. Lansana, I'm a professor of criminal justice, criminology. When I say professor of criminology, criminal justice, meaning I teach all these classes like intro to criminal justice, correctional systems and practices, the aspects of correction, criminology, juvenile delinquency, law, criminal proceeding, etc., etc.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you for the correction. Very much appreciated. Yes. So far, I tell you, say this not just the relevant man for the platform here this evening, as we're ready for talk about something very, very serious now. We national history. This is history in the making. Everything we do here is history in the making. So let me lay the case down in the first place, briefly, because I think we already know, information, we get information saturation on this particular thing. But what we do here, though, is that when the erstwhile APC government lost power to the Sierra Leone People's Party of retired Brigadier Julius Maada Bio, there was a commitment on his part. What is commitment on you, by the way, because I will shortly tell you about the erstwhile government of Ernest Bai Koroma as well. Both way in the campaign back in 2007, and I will try for quote and possibly verbatim on things the way he say regarding corruption and empowering the commissioner for go to anybody were involved in acts of corruption, grafts, procurement, contract embezzlement, and etc. And there was rife corruption ongoing at the time under the late Pakaba, but this is not what we did for talk pan tonight. So President Bio reactivate or reignite something will be the ongo, but not to the satisfaction of the new government way coming. And a campaign promise the president decide for leave up to run anybody way involved in corruption, then we'll go after that person day. And he happy for BC for express some seriousness. And they talk about the seriousness of President Bio in terms of taking the bull by the horn. He went for the top, the creme de la creme, which happened for be the ex-president. We don't antagonize, but who people and the country right now splits. And when I say split, I mean split because we do talk to people and we see actions and the rest of it. But during all of this time, after a commission of inquiry or inquiries were set up and investigations conducted, interviews conducted, then finally submit a white paper to President Bio for action. And some of the things that we will understand inside the white paper, now the confiscation of properties of people that were accused of embezzling, stealing, laundering money belonging to the people of Sierra Leone. I believe over 100 of them. And as we speak today, most of them people, and they, if not all, have a travel ban on their heads. They can't leave the country except by special permission. So this thing done the on-go, but everything now center around the former president. So it's like say, if you want to kill the snake, you don't say definitely not the head you for go for. And it seems like this is what the SLPP-led government is trying to do. But then on the stall and on the bit of problems and the rest of it, from which side did they come out? Well, we just depend on few insiders to read them who they get and boku of the bush radios to read them. But when they do deep research into these things, and we do know, say, both sides get contradictions and then only feed the public messages the way they end up for confused people as such. But today, one take on from the legal aspect, and I could get somebody now with a legal mind, okay? With a legal mind, we will help we for go forward with this conversation here tonight. So, Mr. Lansana, you can offer away your perspective on this entire thing, this, I call it a saga, which has been going on for a while, inviting the president, the ex-president, not turning up on 2 or 3 occasions, the showdown in McKinney, and then Freetown, and then finally, because I've always said the president will not make commitments, say, they will live up to the expectations and then will answer. But when the moment is right, and it seems like the moment was right, and finally, all the fanfare we did before, we see say it go happy in a safe house. Offer me a perspective, please, if you will.
So, like you say, I mean, the president or ex-president make a commitment for go answer to these alleged allegations, if I can put it that way. So, like you say, all the time be right. Maybe those other time maybe not be right, but eventually he show up for answer to this allegation because it didn't say that was the time that was right. Maybe because of security reason, and I agree with him because for security purpose, if you not say you not be feel too safe, then you not want to submit yourself to that kind of stuff till you not say you are sure of best security protection.
Yeah. Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Okay,
Can
you're back. Yeah, you're back, yeah.
Yes. So because of security reason, maybe that for that and not be sure the previous when they asked, but because of security reason, I should say everything will be okay. So that's why eventually it's sure for answer to this alleged allegation.
So let me look at these allegations made against the former president, and let's try to see whether we can look into the merits of these particular allegations. And these allegations, as per my understanding, are very, very serious because there are 18 counts or 18 files. I don't know how they call them in law, but I know there are 18 files, and this include a lot. The former president is accused of embezzling funds and rampant corruption involving mining contracts, involving procurement contracts, and family ties, and the rest of it. How justifiable from your end do you think these charges are and the way they are being pursued? In fact, they are not charges as yet, I believe, or we can call them charges because there's a process ongoing now called an interview.
I mean, these are just allegations. So allegation and charges different. When you say charges, that means you don't charge somebody and the person now therefore appear in court. These are just allegations. So when they say allegation, that means you therefore go answer to the allegation, meaning, okay, you allege for do X, Y, and Z during your time. So come answer to this. So for example, for that they call interview. So like you go for interviews. So the ex-president will be the interviewee. Then the ACC boss will be the interviewer. And the purpose of interview now for gather information from the witness, or in this case from the ex-president.
Okay, we seem for don't lost your audio, Mr. Lansana. We seem for don't lost. Okay, you're back.
Okay. So I was saying, so these are just allegations, not charges. Allegation. Say, okay, the ex-president did X, Y, and Z. So, and the president showed up for interview. So when we start talking about interview, the ex-president in this regard will be the interviewee, and the ACC boss will be the interviewer. So when we start talking about,
yeah, go on, please.
So when we start talking about the interview, my process is designed to get information. So in this regard, the ACC boss want to get information from the ex-president. So it's all about
what would you understand, Mr. Lansana, is obviously, some critical and key words are used here, And
Yes.
for the purpose of me not being a lawyer, so I'm trying to be
Yes.
careful and look and see how you go direct these things, because I'm sure these are things that you kind of versed with.
Yes.
So a summons was issued allegedly by the ACC for
Yes.
the president. Could that be a rightful thing? You know, yeah, when you talk about summons and interview, because I try to equate summon with investigation.
Okay.
Because
So
there's some confusion here in the general public as to which is which.
okay. So let's talk about investigation. So investigation. Yeah. So when they talk about investigation or criminal investigation, for that matter, the process of discovering or collecting or preparing or identifying or presenting evidence. It's all about fact finding, better information. That's all investigation is all about. As compared to interview, you ask the person question. So, for example, me and you, if I interview, I ask you question. That's all I'm doing. Asking you question and you answering to this question. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I follow. I'm hanging on to everything what you say. So on that basis, day, I want for them we look at the legality of this entire showdown regarding the ACC itself. So you've got the Constitution of the Republic, which I believe is supreme, and there's nothing higher than the Constitution. And then we get the ACC, which was created as an act of the Constitution. Some revision was done. Yeah, so that was born out of the Constitution. But even though individual then get a constitutional, rights, can you surrender those rights to the ACC? Is that what certain acts within the ACC Act depicts, that you can seize your liberty at some point, get the right for question you, like we already the ACC boss when they talk about the right for investigate, not interview, but for investigate how you call them, criminal charges. So this is where a lot of confusion is flowing out there to the public, whereas now we do have an interview. Can the ACC investigate or interrogate?
No, I mean, the ACC, they do the interview. Like in this case, they interview the former president. So the interview and investigation is two parts. It's different thing. So not to be confused, all right?
Yeah.
So the interview is just like asking questions. So you get two types of questions. You get open-ended question. So the question where I believe the ACC asks the former president is open-ended question. What does that mean? Open-ended question, now a broad and explanatory phase, meaning what happened. So meaning they go ask the former president, hey, during your tenure, what happened? So it's up to the former president to talk freely and provide everything chronologically. So, okay, during my tenure, X, Y, and Z take place. Okay. You understand?
Yes. So on this basis, is it anywhere possible for you tell we about the way how the ACC boss, where of course it get a heavy load for carry, because the investigation or interview they had themselves are not an easy one, and he's been at this job I think for 2.5 years or so, and now with the interview once upon a time the most powerful man in the country. So far, how do you think the ACC in general and the ACC boss in particular don't conduct himself and the ACC body as a whole in terms of the interviews and the corruption case against former officials of government?
Okay, I called in because since I don't follow everything in Intel, but some, like for example, the former president who made to understand the ACC boss say it don't finish the interview and it don't get the evidence. So if that's the case, if you don't finish the interview, then there's no further interview. So the evidence now we don't get in the criminal justice, the stages of the criminal justice process, you get what they call preliminary hearing or preliminary or probable cause hearing. So what does that mean? So probable cause hearing that the prosecutor therefore test the strength of the evidence, whether the evidence is strong enough or continue with the process. Does that make sense?
Yeah, following.
Yes. So probable cause hearing or preliminary hearing.
Preliminary hearing, which is what they're doing now and collecting. And this now, I appreciate that you wrote more Panam, because again, many contradictions out there, and some people, some of us are confused. We don't know what the truth is. It's like one moment, it's like it's an investigation, and then the next moment, it's an interview, and then the next moment, there is a warrant of arrest. Can you deal with? Yeah, go on, please.
So that's what the people need to understand. So interview and investigation is different. I hope you get me. Like I said,
I follow you, but some of these, not only people and me think say actually, I know a lot of people are responsible for that, but it looks like there's a political side to this as well. What do I mean by political side?
Yes.
You get for imagine this as their supporters, for Francis Ben Kaifala and the work way they do, and not to every Sierra Leonean they on board. I mean, I believe say every Sierra Leonean support the cause or the fight against corruption, but sometimes people can get issues, with the way it's being pursued. So while some people are fanatically with him and the rest, sometimes there's a jargon inside journalism like for throw red meat, like to you supporters, them very rife in political circles. So what I mean by throwing red meat, it's like for quite a while this interview been a storm. And remember, they put out series of bulletins where make them appear like say now only the former ex-president now in the problem to why this interview is not being conducted, whereas the facts are there that there were problems from their side as well. You go on for touch on that a little bit.
So when you say problem on their side, so meaning maybe the problem on their side is support. Maybe they get some other key players where they tamper with the process, because you as the ACC boss, I mean, you job for fight corruption. So without any outside interference, you are able to do your job fairly. When you go, okay, well, Mr. Ex-President will invite you for that answer. And therefore get now mutual agreement, consensus of the mind. You don't follow me.
And your microphone, I don't know what's wrong. I don't know whether you can do some adjustment around. It's a bit croaky. I really don't know.
Get me now.
We get you just that the audio, quality is poor. But they hear you and the guest. Then one guest just asked for let you adjust because I think then they try for hang on to really what you say. Maybe it is too far from you. I don't know anyway. But yeah.
Okay, that just
Okay. So as we be say, another point what we want to add is the ACC itself had issues of security, because say you get for provide security for that kind of event and day, and these were not properly coordinated, because in the end we can say that because we get the benefit of hindsight. Now finally, once everything was coordinated, the meeting was held in a safe house according to them, and there was not too much fanfare. And I mean by throwing red meat to their supporters, because it's like every time the ACC summons the president, the ex-president, the word is out there before you know it. And something else we learn is the first time, and this is not the president-in lawyer say this, so we can quote him, one of his lawyers, Ade Macaulay, that the first invitation was via social media. If this indeed was the case, what do you think about this entire exercise from point A to where we are now?
Because if you say the passed by social media, So that means some kind of outside influence they take place. Because again, like the ACC boss, no for allow no outside influence to take place. Because since the job now for fight corruption and job now for interview or go interview the ex-president, all this modality for don't take place. For make sure everything the government called modus operandi, your method of operation, make sure everything for don't take place, you cross your teeth or dot your eyes before you invite the president. So maybe those things were not in place. That's why they get all these issues.
Okay. You want to try this program without your earpiece? Let's see how we go play out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds far better. Although now one word you call, but it sounds far better. Yeah.
All right. Good. Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. We will see as we go along. So here is the thing now. At the end of the day, the former president did turn up, and the first interview did take place. But like we say, Mr. Conte, we really get for beer with the sound, because you can see the guests don't try to adjust the thing. I don't ask them for pull the earpiece. Maybe it will improve. I don't know what else is the problem, to be honest. Yeah, I really don't know what else is the problem. But if we can just manage them as such, please. So the interview eventually, they don't hold this interview. But again, another contradiction. Even though you touch on that small, I want to let you expand. And this contradiction again is massive, because that gives you an idea as to the information where they self the filter out there, where they help or confuse the general public, which is they hold this interview eventually. And then the ACC boss come out from the interview and pull out a bulletin and still get a tweet, and they read them every day, that finally the interview has been held at a safe location. So they inform the Sierra Leonean people, which was an obligation. But then here is the thing. The gentleman turned up on 98.1 and give an interview saying that they already don't collect evidence or get all the evidence, and they've arrived at conclusion. Do you trust, or will you trust the process further based on just this statement? Why it will come out here from no other but the man at the helm of the interview?
Okay, so speaking in that regard, if the ACC boss say, okay, well, I've conducted my interview and I've gathered my evidence. So that means the interview has been concluded. You follow me?
Yeah.
So if the interview has been concluded, you gather your evidence. Now, according to the justice process, we have what we call, again, preliminary hearing. Establishes whether there is sufficient evidence, the evidence for the ACC boss gets, whether there is sufficient evidence to continue with the process, or gives the prosecutor the opportunity to test the strength of the evidence. Does that make sense?
Yeah. The former president.
And when we start talking about evidence, it can be evidence, can be anything that can be used to prove or disprove a fact in a case. Example, photograph, documents, etc. So not just physical evidence.
Not just physical evidence. So circumstantial evidence can equally be heard, but no hearsay. Hearsay will not be permitted in a court of law, will it?
No, hearsay will not be permitted in a court of law. Because when we start talking about hearsay, is when somebody tells you something. And if somebody tells you something, you don't want to use it in a court of law. For example, let's say I tell you, say, John Doe say that you do this. So the word John Doe for can himself, for can say tell the court, say, now so you do. Does that make sense? So you are saying evidence will not be admitted in the court of law. So
in that case,
yes.
Okay. In that case, there are allegations of the ACC boss once again saying that he's heard from a couple of ministers, in other words, with regard to the ongoing case with the former president, that some minister that will be served under him, don't tell him X, Y, and Z. Okay?
Yes.
Since this is not admissible, do you think that the ACC boss, Francis Ben Kaifala Esquire, will not be foolhardy enough for put such body of evidence, hearsay evidence, into the bulk of the evidence we eventually together, and I believe say for submit to a court of law? Will he?
No, because like you say, the ACC boss here from ministers, all these are hearsay. So they therefore call them former minister for cross-examining. They get what they call cross-examination. So what does cross-examination mean? Examination of witness by someone other than the direct examiner, in this case, the president. So those ex-ministers will therefore come testify, saying that so the president, ex-president, does that make sense?
Absolutely. So another issue of concern is these charges initially against the former president were kept secret. I mean, the main actors at the ACC were tight-lipped on the charges being brought against the former president. Is this a normal procedure? Will this be a normal procedure, sir?
Normal procedure in what sense?
Well, again, me just look at from that general perspective that una they inform. First of all, this seems to be like a public trial because all of the information it seems like they try for appease the general public for understand.
Okay, let me stop you. When you say charges, I mean charges meaning they could not charge the former president to court. Then you say these are just allegations. That's all it is, allegations, not charges. Because if you say charge, that means they don't charge the former president to court. Then we say charges.
So again, many thanks for that. But this is where we all get confused because if you take your time, you listen to the ACC boss where they talk most of all of them. Once in a while, the outreach coordinator, one Mr. Sandy, can also, talk in behalf of the ACC. But I think the terms that can be used loosely depending on who that they talk, because I believe, say, like charges are being brought against the former president, and then get 18 file cases on the former president, which involve mining contracts, procurement contracts, and etc., etc. So I get, even myself, I get a little bit confused because I'm listening to the people when they chat the case, when they make the case against the former. And if the ACC boss allegedly can come out and say they don't collect all the evidences, so probably that's why people are saying, charges, they misconstrue what the facts are. But I want to say thank you for setting that trend, kind of straight. And just like Mrs. Sister saying at the platform, it's a kind of lecture back and forth. And this is not the conversation we, I think, say with people and they expect, because we try to touch on a few things. So I want to go back on the issue of security, Mr. Lansana, if you don't mind, because again, this is critical to we people. The ex-president, in my opinion, security in a team where they evolve all of the time. The reason why they bring this come up, because there's a school of thought out there where they go along, they say, well, the ex-president get security then, no sound. Somebody's telling me no sound, no sound, no sound. Come on. For me to hear you clearly. Janet, can you hear me? Any sound now? Any sound, or maybe on your own phone, we cannot see anybody talking to. Sound, are we getting sound loud and clear, please? Somebody confirm, please. So we can go ahead. This is a very interesting interview or conversation that we are having. Any sound, please? Let me just type this, not just to talk. Are we getting the sound now, please? Any sound? Any sound? No sound. No sound. Okay, go ahead. Okay, so Mr. Cabo, thank you very much. So yes, somebody hearing me. So yeah, the both of us. Yeah. So I've been talk about the issue of security, and because sometimes when we talk, we can also take into consideration the public, their own perception, their own view of things, and you can find for them they discuss these things, and then when they listen and we get this listening, at least go understand them in this sense, which is the former president expressed issues of security. It's good for also put on the record that the ACC equally expressed a situation of security because the president gets a large following and anything can descend into anything on the day where you get an open invitation in the for go meet you at your office inside Central Freetown for a man who is hugely still popular when you see that. So I'm not making this up. So after the president expressed that view, the people are saying that I guess security don't travel from the north, come down to Freetown without giving a prior consideration to the times and the situation. You want to explain that in a wider context, from the security point of view, how the security thinking evolved, and why it be necessary that anybody could get for express some concern.
I mean, for the fact that the mere fact that he's an ex-president.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Hello? And they get sound, I think, not from your end, because I get few people who don't respond. If you watch the chat room, then say the sound is okay.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, it's okay. Thank you. No worries. Yeah,
Go
ahead, sir. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So for the mere fact that the former president was once a president, an ex-president, and you yourself could attest every president or former president entitled to security, and security for being of paramount importance to that individual wherever it goes for his safety. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yeah. It makes absolute sense.
So in that regard, yes, the president was right, or the ex-president, because he wants to be assured that where it was safe, even though yes, he gets security, but on the part of the ACC, they said for do all this logistics, make sure no obstacle on the way whilst the president they enroute to this location. Does that make sense?
Absolute sense. From a security perspective, that makes sense. I mean, I bring this up because I know a lot of people, and some were serious because I don't know why, honestly. I know some of it is highly political, but here is the thing. You think, say, the government do enough, like for explain these things to the people so that people will get a grasp, or as usual, everything is political. So people were being misled or they left the normal for let them think the way they want to think, way in itself is toxic, and it creates even more security problem. So the question, I guess, what they try to put to you, do you think, say, the government, acted enough, provide much more information out to the public when they try for secure and whose name that they say that they do all of this? Do you think they do much for informing the general public on the situation?
Maybe the government probably provide, even though yes, the former president gets security, maybe the part of the government they provide security as well along on the way whilst the president enroute. That's what I think the government should have done.
Okay. So let me talk about the cost to this exercise. You hear me, sir?
Yes, I did get you loud and clear.
Okay. Let's talk about the cost to this exercise. Let's try for weigh the benefits. So
Yes.
we have to go back to the very beginning. I mean, let nobody not get me wrong. The fight against corruption, I believe
Yes.
we all day on board with them, and we make that clear from the very beginning. But there are issues of impropriety, if you will like. The procedural improprieties are there, and this is what we are talking about.
Yes.
So we have to fight corruption, and we can't end up. Of course, it's a non-ending thing. It's a kind of phenomena which hard for understand. Yeah.
Yes.
But we can try for mitigate them. That's just a fact. But if we not do them correctly, and this President Madam, you don't highlight the same talk that they many a times, although with the issues of rampant corruption within circles as well, I mean government circles, but people like you say, we left that for now because they can't deal with everything, but it don't set the precedent. This precedent now I want to talk about and the cost. So therefore, a body of people were brought from the outside, professionals, expatriates, if you like.
Yes.
Pay them X amount of millions of leons, convert that into dollars at very difficult times.
Yes.
And the ongoing trials, security procedures, and money is being spent, coupled with waiting may happen. So far, you think, say, we don't get a benefit for money spent? Because we don't know how much, but we can, for sure guess, say a huge sum of money has been spent.
I mean, and talking about cost spent, I mean, definitely we get to expect these things, because talking about security, about bringing professional experts, definitely involve costs, because you get for either lose them, pay them, etc. And all this security, you get for payment, so involve a cost. So, I mean, talking about whether we don't get what we expect or not, I mean, because the process still they continue. So cost will always be there. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So we will more focus on the end game.
The issue now at hand is for make the process go speedily without no interruption. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're a real classroom teacher, because every statement you make, you end with whether it makes sense. I'm sure your pupils then will appreciate you very much. That's a good one. Yeah, many thanks.
Yes.
Fambulem, just a quick reminder, we shape this video. We get about roughly about 25 more minutes, 30 more minutes for go towards this program, and it's a very interesting program by all accounts. We talk about current issues of our time, and the most serious issue ongoing now in our country, which is the fight against corruption, involving a heavyweight in person of the former leader of the country, Ernest Bai Koroma. And you can see the title there, Ernest Koroma and the Armor of the Law. You get Francis Kaifala, Esquire, we happen for be the ACC boss, and the ACC itself, and we'll put on versus Ernest Bai Koroma. So this is what is ongoing. I want to appreciate certain people on the platform. Mr. Edani Wuri, welcome. I know you a long time on the platform, but it's good to have you back. Nabi Yansane, this name looks new, but I appreciate your presence. Hope this will not be the last of you. Hope for see you more. Naomi Conte, yes, she's been a regular on the platform lately. Welcome, my sister. Ibrahim K. Jallo, thank you very much, my brother. Philip Pap Samora, Robert Cabo, Janet M, and Stella Fona. And Stella Fona put something along there, so let me read them. The ACC boss is the most corrupt man because he sees what the SLPP ministers doing and stealing in office, Corona monies, and the 1 or 2 containers rice for chief ministers, and that's a lot they said, and it's packed. And I want to talk about that because it's about the issue of corruption. So here is the thing, where you want to gain credibility or no one too many.
Before I don't mean to interrupt you, let me take you back to this hearsay, because you say the ACC hearing from the former president, the former ministers, right?
Yeah.
So they are saying anything not based on personal knowledge, it cannot be used. One of the class I just teach about the courtroom work group. So what am I talking about? The players in the courtroom. So I talk about Yase. All of you follow me.
Yeah, following you.
So it cannot be used. Yase cannot be used in a courtroom or in American court, but it cannot be used anywhere. Rather than accepting testimony based on Yase, that means you accept Yase evidence from the former ministers. The court will ask, or the ACC in this regard, will ask that the person who was the original source of the information being brought into question and cross-examined. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So Yase will not be admissible in the court of law.
It's not admissible.
That's second-hand evidence. Yase will prohibit the use of second-hand evidence.
No worries at all. Many thanks for that, Sister Fatmata Seri. Welcome to the program. And Brother Suma Abdullah, your background look like President Biona in the referee between ACC and former president. Yeah, many thanks for that. That's not a bad reading, but it's just obvious not three of the major parties and this ongoing thing. And President Biodi on top because of course he's the president of the country. His Excellency Julius Maada Bio. That's the reason. So, Mr. Lansana, just back to you quickly. I mean, just to read something from a sister. We put something out there.
Yes.
You know, for that you be credible, upright, and be of principle and integrity.
Yes.
You get for attain certain status in terms of justice when they met out to people or waiting you are tasked to do. You are doing it to the letter. But the sister mentioned key things that we see unfold right before we. First of all, 49,000 bags of rice got missing. And they talk about tangible commodity, not a penny where they put in your pocket. 49,000 bags. As far as we're concerned, we, the general public, nothing came out of it. There were issues about the chief minister and the $1.5 million bribery case. Waiting we know again, nothing come out of that. Okay, and there are a few other things that have been happening on the side of the ruling government in which they have walked free. Hence why people tend for the call this particular action being taken as a witch hunt. Will you agree with that? First of all, you go agree with the allegation the way the UMA make, but it is true because we see them happen about 49,000 bags of rice and Francis Ben Kaifala not able to prosecute anybody for that, even though it tell me back say they been get evidence. I think one time they did at the outskirts of Freetown, say it did at the warehouse, who side the rest then they, and it turned out for this the rest disappear into thin air, 49,000 bags of rice. When people raise questions about the credibility of the actions of the ACC, do they stand on firm ground, on some ground at least which they can argue from your perspective and observation, sir?
Yes, there you go, because, I mean, as we always say, the job of the ACC for being neutral. When I say neutral, meaning no outside influence. The job now for just investigate corruption, whether not party A or party B. So whether not the former or present. So speaking about those bags, yes, if you say you don't get the evidence and everything, then therefore we continue with the process. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, sir. Let me take you out of your comfort zone a little bit, and viewers them. We don't talk a lot about the legal side of things, in which me guest, you try to articulate the real way how these things supposedly for work. We don't do speculation here, but I will try to speculate a little bit, So, Mr. Lansana, The former president is accused of all of these how you call them, allegations. They try to use the right term. They had for last time, but I stammer here because I keep using charges. So he's accused of all these allegations.
Yes.
Again, you target the man on the top, and there are over 100 of them. But the fanfare all seem for day around this man. Of course, now the big man. Do you read anything specific into this? Now, make us say I want to speculate a little bit.
I really like, again, back to what I'm saying, the job of ACC investigate all types of corruption. So it's not going for just be one person, meaning it's not going to be just the former president. Everybody, whether present, whether former or present, before go against these people, fight against these people dealing with corruption. So not going to be one person.
Okay,
so in that issue, so in that issue, it gets some outside influence on the play, or some kind of outside influence on the take place, because you have to be neutral whilst doing these things. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So the bottom line is,
then questions will be raised, arguments will be raised. Does that make sense?
Yeah. The bottom line here is, would you say it will look like, obviously, the reason why they deal with her now is for send a stronger message to the others who, now smaller ones, they're smaller fish to fry. Because if you go for the head, just like the head of a snake, then you obviously can deal with the tail, if you know what I mean. But yes. I want to read thing from Ernest Bai Koroma, and I want to do a verbatim. I have campaigned on the platform of putting up a very robust fight. And Famulem, I want to take una back to pre-2007, where Ernest Koroma been the run for office. This was a question posed to him because at the time, corruption going in the then SLPP government of the late Tijan Kaba. There was, and the records are there, so I'm not making this up, in which even the international community be very, very concerned, okay? So the country been getting bad press about money being diverted left, right, and center, the lack of transparency in government accounts. And on that basis, an international reporter asked Ernest, what would you do if eventually you are elected to office? And here is his answer. I have campaigned on the platform of putting up a very robust fight against corruption. We believe that the key problem of the past administration, which was the Pakaba administration, that was the problem. I am going to immediately do a few things that will help us fight against corruption. In the first place, I will ensure that the ACC, which is the Anti-Corruption Commission, as we know them, is revitalized and strengthened. I am going to ensure that we pass a legislation that will give an amendment to the act that establishes the Anti-Corruption Commission. And on that basis, the former president then went on to say that authority will be removed and will be restored to the ACC. We therefore bear in mind, before then, prior to then, it was with the Attorney General. And the reason why ex-President Koroma removed that authority from the Attorney General was because issues will be simply compromised, because the Attorney General there will be conflict of interest, if you like. It's a political position. The reason why they quote President Koroma is because of two things. I will read the rest of the quote, but I wonder you deal with this first, if you will, please. We can see clearly that the president empowered the ACC at the time and take actions which was demonstrably So for make the commission get some kind of an independence. So pull and come out now a position when I appoint the Attorney General, where obviously they report to him, and therefore if there are issues for him for investigate, of course you're not going to be able for investigating boss. So then try to make the commission independent. The two questions what I get for you quickly is, the All People's Congress, they cry foul, and if now you did at the end of the stick, you might be crying foul as well, if you can understand. Yeah. And if now been President Koroma, we strengthen the ACC and we believe in the independence and accountability process, why then are people complaining left, right, and center about witch hunt? Which is one of the questions, whether that's fair, because this now your own ACC where he empower and strengthen, and it's like say you get your whip, and that's your whip being used against you now. What's the complaint about, if there is one? And then, secondly, do you see this ACC boss independent? Because the question for Monday morning on my blog will be, is the ACC boss a lawyer or a politician or both? And the reason why I say this is like there are talks within social media circles that there are times when Mr. Ben Kaifala Esquire doesn't sound very much like a lawyer, it sounds very much like a politician. So if this is the case, you think, say, this commission, they get independence?
Okay, so good to ask the question. So again, as the ACC boss, where the installment for fight corruption, so it got to be neutral. Yeah, so you now got to take no side, meaning either side A or side B. Are you following me? So it got to be neutral. So that means it can, whether at this A, it will go against A or B. That means it will go against the former government or the present government. So that's all it needs to be. So it will be independent body, it will be a body of itself, neutral, with no interference, no outside interference. What does that mean? Meaning interference from former government or present government. So enough get no outside. But because maybe get outside interference, after that, you're not able to enjoy effectively. It's important. So the present government, yes, we know there are some corrupt people in the government. So that it will go against these people. Maybe it gets some link connection with the government. Are you following me?
I'm with you, yeah.
So it should be neutral for be able to do the job. In other words, it's saying nobody enough for only and under our time.
So let's just interject there quickly, because here you repeat the word, it should be neutral. But the question was almost like exact, if you like. I mean, you don't have to give a yes or no to it, but that I've been the look for, because I give you the circumstances in which the former president empower the ACC so that it will get independence. It take the directorship from the Attorney General, whose position is political, he is appointed by the president, and for avoid conflict of interest, they say, okay, let's make this ACC independent, okay, and empower them so that there won't be conflict of interest. So on that basis, they carry on, although there are questions still, but that's what carry on up to the time where it come on power. But this same ACC now is now the one that is interviewing on allegations of corruption and etc. Serious charges, 18 of them, and they are really serious. But the circumstances were provided when Makela ask you the question as to whether there is that independence in which the former president may anticipate, say, if they give the ACC. One, we see many cases then where involve people who are party loyalists are being exonerated, i.e. 49,000 bags of rice just spirited away, just vanished into thin air. And like I tell you, this is not hearsay. the attorney general, I mean the ACC boss was on site at an alleged site where the bags of rice were said to be in a warehouse. And then later, these bags of rice, 49,000 of them just disappeared. So on that basis, since these people will be involved in anything that way they happen just like magic, abracadabra, where people who were in the same circle, they went free. So are they asked now about, from your perspective, do you think we can say that the independence where the former president been anticipate, where he speak, he say, and they give you, the ACC, the independence, by taking away the leadership ability from an attorney general who is politically attached and a media appointee, so to avoid compromise and conflict of interest, are they give in an independent person. Is that independence, or can we talk anything about independence now in the word itself, based on the circumstances I just provided?
Okay, so, all right, so talking about independence, so now the former president, as you say, without this independent to this ACC boss or to this commission. So now, this present government, where some people are alleged for engaging in malpractice or corruption business, so the ACC boss will go after these people. But for some reason, like it's on a blind eye. In one of my class, like they teach about police corruption, where you turn a blind eye. That's also corruption, because say these things we are missing, but you turn the other way. So if you turn the other way, that means you let nothing slide by. So we call it corruption. The class where they teach police corruption, that's how we call it. So, to bring this whole idea home, that means the ACC and they under attack by this government. So to answer your question, I don't think say independent, because why? Because I'm under this government. Because if you see something, you need to say something. Because like you say something and turn the other way. What we call it, corruption, right?
Yes. So I think there's a kind of clarity in that answer, because we provide the circumstances, and obviously it does point to that direction. Let me come back again to the legal context, if you like. I go back again to the former president, who is now under the whip, if you like. When he gave the independence as pronounced by him then, he also said, we will establish a court, and like I say, everything what they say about her now is verbatim. We will establish a court that will be charged with responsibility of addressing principally all matters from the anti-corruption.
I don't all mean for corruption. So let's go back to the ACC, where you say you see these bags of rice, then all of a sudden they're missing, right? So
sorry, say that again, please, Lasana.
When the ACC boss, you say you see say these bags of rice are missing, right? So we call that like plain favoritism, selective enforcement, because you know these things are missing, right? But it's on the other way. So that's selective enforcement. So yes, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think if you say you want to still continue on that, because that's serious, but I definitely think that it makes a lot of sense, because that's what they try to say. So when issues, are pertaining to people from your circle, you look the other way. But once it happens on the other side, and then suddenly there is this vested interest, so much so that you're willing to sacrifice.
So that for that one, bring for make the viewers understand. So again, the police class teach, we talk about example of police corruption. So that's like plain favorites. Why I say plain favorites? Because you turn the other way. On this other hand, you answer for these people. Is it that plain faith? Yes or no? Or in other words, selective enforcement? Yes or no? Are you getting me?
Yeah.
Are you with me?
I follow you.
So that's plain faith. If you turn the other way, what are you doing? Plain faith, yes?
Yeah.
All right. So our viewers they understand what it means. Plain faith on selective enforcement. That makes sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I just laughed because somebody said, where is the 49,000 bags of rice and the 1.5 million from the chief minister? All of this was swept under the carpet. And that is why people say this is a witch hunt. And the sister just put something, of course, just a throwback. February 2003, the Sierra Leone government enacted the Anti-Corruption Act, which paved the way for the establishment of the Anti-Corruption Commission, which came into being on January, I believe. Yeah, I've just lost that, which is quite interesting. The aim of strengthening the ACC to most effectively execute its functions and mandates. That's right. So the 2008 Act gives prosecutorial powers to the ACC. So the ACC has got prosecutorial powers. Mr. Lassana, what can it do without prosecutorial powers within the context of this conversation or what is ongoing right now at the ACC?
So
what can it do?
When we start talking about prosecutorial power, that means you get power for prosecute any person. That's all it is, prosecutorial power.
So help me with this, because there is a school of thought out there, or maybe the prosecutorial powers, this is where again, I think I get a little bit confused, but help with this. So the last part what I want to read to you based on the former president is that it will set up a court, where we will expedite the process. So not the commission, but a court. So the commission can look into things, but eventually the understanding is it should end up or will end up in a court of law. Is that the case?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
If that is the case, now once we talk about prosecutorial powers, will you explain a little bit more? Put some more beef on the bone, please.
When we start talking about prosecutorial power, again, that means the ACC comes now where you, the prosecutor, get the power for prosecute any case. That's all it means, prosecutorial power. That means you decide to prosecute or decide not to prosecute. You just get the power for prosecute. That's all it means, prosecutorial power.
So if he prosecutes, then it can no longer go to court. It does not necessarily have to go to court, because as per my understanding, the ACC will have done the job of the court. Will that be correct?
Yes, because if we are saying the ACC gets prosecutorial power, that means he himself can prosecute.
That's the exact point I've been trying for come to, because this is a dangerous trend when you look at the things the way they unfold. So now you can begin to understand the mindset and the eagerness for the interviews and subsequently the gathering of evidence, which is not going to go further to a high court or supreme court of the land, but rather the ACC has got these powers to prosecute, and we can tend to think potentially where this will be going.
Yes. So again, if we say the ACC get the commission get prosecutorial power, that means he can prosecute the case. And in reality, you can prosecutors that the court have to prosecute. But because you get power for do that, and in that second way, then it can do that.
Wow. So right, this is really interesting, Mr. Yeah, go on, please. Go on.
So according to the act, according to what the act says, that's what the act says, and that's what it is. Does that make sense?
we come into I get one or two more questions for you. I mean, this has been brilliant, and audience, many thanks for watching, and I sincerely apologize for the bad audio quality of me guest, but I promise you now, this is his first time, and as usual, I can get people there for make a commitment on the platform live for saying this will not be their last, even though it's their first, and I shall say the brother will definitely come back and we'll have a clear line established so that we go here and hang on to everything, because this is a kind of a lecture, you know, it's a kind of a lecture, criminal justice lecture, and I want to put them at 301 because there is an other higher height will go probably the next time when we do meet. Mr. Lansana, just before we close the program, sir. So, I mean, we carried this interview exactly where we were going, almost towards the end, and this now almost like a submission of a case that we have been, you know, arguing on back and forth. So there are prosecutorial powers that the ACC has. So while most people, including the president in lawyer them, this is interesting. The president in lawyer them and the circles of the former president in lawyer them and his circle them, they are contemplating on this matter going to court. And one of the president in former lawyer then was also himself the head of this ACC, who should know plenty. And I know say go get many files and access to X, Y, Z. So this ACC, you reckon that some of these powers need to be scaled back because they run contrary to the Constitution. If the Constitution are the highest law in the land, and this now a question, if eventually the ex-president and his team of ministers and others are prosecuted, will there be a chance of appeal? And if there is, does it now go to the court, or it will have to be the same ACC who will determine because of action?
So glad you asked. So in that case, so we get the court system, right?
Yeah.
So the ACC, so let's say he's the prosecutor, so he's in court, all right? So
Yeah.
let's say the so when the former president went to court together with the prosecutor, that's where we have the preliminary hearing, establish whether there is sufficient evidence to continue with this process here. Or, in other words, gives the prosecutor in this regard, the ACC, the opportunity to test the strength of the evidence. There's sufficient evidence, as said, on evidence, where it can be document on anything, then we can continue with the process. So that means they can continue with the process all the way from information to arraignment to adjudication and to sentencing. Does that make sense? Yes.
Well, this is more than the Supreme Court. You know, if you will like.
I mean, when you say Supreme Court, I mean, let's take the Supreme Court out of this because I'm looking at it from justice process. When we start talking about the stages of the criminal justice process, it's not just the stages. Does that make sense? Are you following me?
You line the break. You know the flow very well.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're back now. Yeah.
Just give me a minute.
Yeah, sure.
Just give me a minute. All right.
So Fambule, we get a brother here. We very inclined with some of the things we will talk about today. And it's obviously Brother Lansana who enforced in this the program. But certainly this is not going to be his last, because the things that we share with we today in this conversation, you know, on the issue regarding the ACC is really, really serious, and one go for contemplate and have time for reflect on, because this is not going to bode well. So are you back?
Hold on, just a minute.
Okay, no worries. I can take the floor while we wait. So, as I say, Fambulem, this is really kind of serious. It's really kind of serious. Who's this? 820. Okay. It's
Hear me clear.
yeah, you don't do something with your microphone, eh? Finally, before we come to the end.
Yeah, so you hear me clear now?
It's far better, but you need for bring your volume count down to 0. Forget about hearing yourself. Bring your volume down to 0, but yes, you are clear.
All right. That sounds good.
You don't bring your volume in the echo because you get your volume up. You watch them on a different thing here, you on the same gadget with the top one. So with the hearing you don't need for you will listen to it later. With the hearing you, so you be make a point.
Okay, so they get me now.
You the echo. Did you put them on speaker as well? You need for bring your volume count down to completely 0.
Okay, just a minute. Okay. That sounds good.
Yeah, far better. There's a little echo, but we can manage that. We got about 5 more minutes for wrap up the show. We end the show at 22:20. 5 more minutes.
Just give me a minute, quick.
Okay, why don't they try for the brother a minute? Waiting, everyone say we na part of the wrap up. Yes, I agree with you, brother Paps Samora. This lecture needs a very good internet line. Most of the statements were not heard from the lawyer's end. Just a quick correction, he's not a lawyer.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear, sir. He's not a lawyer, Mr. Samora. It's just from the criminal justice end of things. The criminal justice end of things. We go and come back and we go keep the general public, you're very much informed because this conversation, like I try for Putam lately, is going to be heard. In fact, the national conversation has begun. How do we organize? How do we mobilize? How do we strengthen? It's about these conversations we will lead to that path. Other than that, we are just talking. Okay. Mr. Lansana, are you back, sir?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. I wish you don't do and so it's so crisp now.
Okay. Next time.
Yeah. Next time, of course. There's always a next time, God willing.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you make a point, just go ahead, please. And I don't know.
So as I was saying, speaking about the prosecutor, so let's say the ACC boss could be like the prosecutor. So forget about the Supreme Court. So when we start talking about the Supreme Court, for example, the class where they teach the criminal law and proceeding or the intro to criminal justice, one of the chapters we talk about the federal court system. So when we start talking about the Supreme Court, that's the highest law of the land. For example, let's say the United States Supreme Court. So so that Supreme Court not get nothing to do with the stages of the criminal justice process. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay.
So this we're talking about the stages of the criminal justice process. So now the prosecutor says he get the evidence. So we get the evidence. So that means the next stage will be preliminary hearing or probable cause hearing. Are you with me?
Yeah, go on.
So the preliminary hearing establish whether there is sufficient evidence to continue with the process. Gives the prosecutor, and this regard the ACC, the opportunity to test the strength of the evidence. So if there's sufficient evidence, we move to the next stage of the process, when now information or indictment, from their arraignment, from their adjudication till sentencing. Does that make sense?
So how this process they work out, because this is where I've been try for understand. All of which you just named, so bit by bit, all the way to adjudication and sentencing. Is it going to work just within the ACC? Because my own understanding, or what I thought, was the ACC is now investigating. Interviewing. And the process of
Yes.
interviewing is for gather evidence.
Information.
Information. Once they've gathered that much, and then say it bears some relative cost to the case for go ahead to the next process, the same ACC now will handle it again, because all along, and they feel say, once they not assemble this body of evidence, then would then forward them to the courts, because when I read waiting the ex-president will say that the court will work in tandem with the ACC. In other words, the ACC get wide powers, but when they look into certain things, once they're not assembled X, Y, Z, then the court now will expedite that process there, not the ACC. So I get a bit lost here. And
okay, glad you asked. So in that regard, the ACC not go do none of that. So let's take the prosecutor. So let's say the prosecutor will be the ACC boss. It go get for them that the normal court, because now they everything they take place. Also now the commission, because the commission is not the court. So
yeah,
let's say
this is my point I've been trying to drive to you. Yeah.
So the prosecutor has to be in the normal court, where everything takes place, where the trial takes place. Are you with me?
Loud and clear. Yeah.
So in this case, let's say the former president will be the defendant, because now he get in defense attorney. So now you get the defense attorney and the prosecutor. The prosecutor so aim that for prosecute a matter in the interest of the state. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and just because for time constraints, let me ask you this final question. And this goes directly to the heart of your specialty, criminal justice.
Yes.
And I want to talk about something called fencing, which I believe, of course, you understand very well. So if we understand fencing, will that be applicable in terms of the pursuit of justice? I want to call them within the ACC boss they do. So they pursue justice, but at the same time, in criminal justice, the fencing is like you protecting a body of friends whilst you prosecute the other. Even though you mentioned something around this, because we talk about it, but just because I want to see from the criminal justice end of things in terms of fencing, protecting one and prosecuting another, you can throw or shed any light on that, the possibilities of that kind of stuff, yeah?
No, I mean, and that you not go get for protect the interest, because it's like you playing favoritism. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So in that case, you not go do that.
Okay. Final. That was the final question, but I will give the man. The honors for letting wrap up the program. You know, because from the end where they come up from, they go find for making final submission. And let us not forget, by the way, tomorrow on the same platform, not touch the dialogue, just left them on the same platform, same time, 9 p.m. tomorrow night. That's Monday night. I don't know the other parts of the world. Eastern time will be 4 p.m. Please tune in. We get another interesting debate. We will involve two other sides and we will introduce something again. We're not new per se, but in terms of interview style, this will be a debate style. We get Brother Roland Karimu and Brother Supermed Kamara will be right here on this platform tomorrow. They talk almost about the same case because this is not the trend right now. Just read few comments again and thank all those who tune in. Brother Samora, like I say once more, the guests will try for make sure say next time the mic they work well, like you see towards the end of the show, he found a way done at the speed of the human being. Preliminary hearing, probable cause hearing, whichever Samboy Casanova just joining. The ACC has its own court now. So you see, that's the word, the qualifying word now. So it never had before, but it get your own court now. And at the point this again will be, I think we play around. So if they get a new court now, which means that they can look into this thing, but we've run out of time. One last contribution. It is good for them to have so much power. That way they operate well. I don't necessarily agree with that characterization, Mr. Casanova, on the basis of when person get too much power, power corrupts a man. You know, so What we need now the checks and balance system. That's what we need for work on. With institutions, and that's what we need for empower and strengthen, not a strong man or one party. No. That doesn't work well. Power corrupts a man. Keep that at the back of your mind. On that basis, Mr. Lansana, please wrap up this program for us, please.
Okay, so in summary, so the people they need to understand say there is a difference. So interview and investigation are two different things, because I think that's what gets some people confused. Interview is just asking the person question for get information. Does that make sense? Just like if they interview you or you interview me for get information, that's all it is, as compared to investigation. And when we start talking about evidence, could be physical or other type of evidence, like documents, photograph. So not just physical evidence of itself. Does that make sense?
Following.
And like somebody they say now, the ACC get a cut of itself. So if they get a cut of itself, then the courts get for do all that process.
Okay. We don't fast run out of time, and I'm really happy for your contribution on the platform here tonight. Really do appreciate it. It was a fine conversation on a very, very interesting topic, and I believe a lot of people will appreciate this, and especially if we do a follow-up to this, which I will look forward to, and we'll get in touch with you very soon. So Fambulem, once again, we don't come to the end of another massive program. We just they ask for them when they will not be fortunate, for be present with us tonight. Of course, thousands of people get for watching later, we know, but we can help.
I'll show them next time the sound will be good as compared to today.
The guests don't tell we say next time, yeah, sure we say the sound will be good. And if the guests say so, we definitely know say a get for be good. So thank you very much, Fambulem. Thank you for tuning in. I believe say when I go begin for wind down now, because I just can't play the closing music. But the last word for when I go be there is a sense of commitment, or there should be a sense of commitment on the part of every one of us for ensure say we country do well. And in ensuring that we country do well, we get for promote the checks and balance system. So the way we talk, we just talk for talking sake, or so some authority then can look at us. So we need for the organized, for the get stronger, so that our voices can be heard, so that we can lobby more powerful people and organization them, so that they will champion the cause, because power can only succumb to greater power. This is the thing. I can talk a million times now, of course the word will go, but if we not organize and come together as strong as we can and go lobby stronger people them for explain we causes to them and how they can help we, it's never going to materialize, and the people that we talk about, they're only going to be having a laugh. Okay, so Fambule, like I say, there's an urgency for help for changing the country. We appreciate Francis Ben Kaifala, but we say he need for do more and be more open with the process. We want to see more prosecutions if possible from other sides as well, including his own sides. There are many questions being raised now that it's only one side of people who are going down. And even when somebody on the other side goes down, we see that it's sheer nothing but tokenism. And
if that's the case, I don't mean for cut you. And if that's the case, then we call, once again, police corruption, meaning playing favoritism. You're playing favorite.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a number of these cases out there. We know that the young man, the ACC boss, is overwhelmed with these cases, but then you can't just see, like the guest say one side of things and then the other side, where there's a kind of sense of belonging. You don't see that.
It's selective enforcement.
Selective enforcement. A police chief cannot be appointed by the president of the republic and in public pledge allegiance to the president and not to the people, the constitution, and the flag for which he served. That in itself is corruption. There's a list of that. So there has to be, some process of accountability where go satisfy the people. And if people are expressing some dissatisfaction, being apprehensive, and hold some fears, it's because of these things. We see police people being attacked. Imagine police being attacked by forest guards, and we need some answers. We see school picking and fail massively in the country. We need some answers. Remember, I raised the issue and people and try to make them political. But if picking and fail, who is responsible? The minister is absolutely responsible. We never say the rottenness begin under this young government. No, this is as a consequence of decades, 20 years, 30 years back. This thing did not start. But there was a promise, a campaign promise. And when you ascended the presidency, you promised that you will do something, and the man where you employ, you make it clear to me now for take responsibility for change things. If things are not changing or they are slow, we still hold the minister accountable. If we get the manager, they manage people and things are not going well, the overall boss, they go hold the people, he holds the manager accountable. This is simple, it's management rules. So sometimes let we take off with political lens, let we put on the green, white, and blue and forget about party colors. This, now the then and now, I've been your host and presenter, Prince Emil Koroma. They say, "Una not forget again tomorrow we be on live on this platform." For the then and now, I want to say good night to everybody.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. I left now to one old tune.